It's 5:15 p.m. on Tuesday, March the 5th, 2024. I call this public hearing of the Kingsville Independent School District to order. We'll have roll call. Joe Morales. Here. Martin Chapa.
Here.
David Garcia. Joseph Reese.
Here.
James Blusing.
Here.
Donna Salinas.
Here.
Brian Kufal is here. Let the record show there is a quorum of board members present, and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551 of the State of Texas Open Meetings Act. The Kingsville ISD Board of Trustees will conduct a public hearing to discuss the following: 2022-2023 Texas Academic Performance Report, the table. Dr. Bessenice.
Good evening. Good evening, President Kufal. Good evening, President Kufal, Superintendent Dr. Bettis, and members of the board. This evening, I'll be briefly reviewing the information on the TAPER report. The Texas Academic Performance Report, the TAPER, pulls together a wide range of information on the performance of students in each school and district in Texas every year. Performance is shown disaggregated by student groups, including ethnicity and low-income status. The reports also provide extensive information on school and district staff programs and student demographics. Okay. On January the 25th of 2024, we provided a hard copy to all board members. We also posted the TAPER report on the website, and we provided an overview PowerPoint with the academic information, which was also provided in your packets and began on page 4. So at that presentation on January the 25th, the academic portion of the TAPER report has already been presented publicly at that board meeting on the 25th. Are there any additional questions that I may be able to answer on the TAPER report?
Oh, I thought you were gonna go through it. No?
We can go through each page if you'd
I
like.
was just.
We did, though, at the last board meeting.
Okay,
On the 25th, if you look at behind your TAPER report,
yeah.
it is the presentation, yes ma'am, and on page 4 of the presentation is the TAPER report that we reviewed on the 25th of January.
So this is where you explained to us that in grade, third grade, we need to look at 2022 and then look at the change in the 2023 of the fourth grade.
Yes.
Yes.
If you're looking apples to apples.
Yes.
Because this is what we get graded on, so we didn't make gains. We made losses.
You're talking about the third
I was
grade,
just starting up at the top. Third grade reading.
third grade reading.
On what year?
Approaches, 2022, we had a 67.
Mhm.
2023, we had a 60. At meets, we had a 39 and 22, we had a 37 and 23. At masters, we had a 21 and 22, and then we had a 10%. So they all,
Are you looking at the PowerPoint or are you looking at the taper?
I'm looking at the taper report.
Okay,
Oh,
so
the
the,
Yeah,
actual
that's-
report or the PowerPoint
No,
that's
I'm
on
looking
page
at
one?
the actual report, it's on the TEA website. And so that's what I was looking at, I was looking at the losses. So-
And those are the exact numbers that are on the PowerPoint as well. And we just want to also just remind the board that this was the first time the students did test online.
Right, and I totally understand.
Yes, ma'am.
I just, this is what I'm familiar with, so
Yes.
this is what we use.
Yes, ma'am.
This
And
is-
we used the same paper report and pulled this for our presentation that we did on the 25th. So that data that you just mentioned is reflected on page 5 of the PowerPoint.
Okay, I just,
so looking at the third grade, 67% approaches from
2022.
2022. Yes, to the fourth grade, if you're looking at the fourth grade then, is that what you're saying?
They went down by
no, and I
265.
don't go like that, because really and truly, when we get rated on this. We look at from year to year. You know, when we get,
The growth measure is what
Right.
we've been, but it doesn't, it
Right.
doesn't show the growth measure on the taper. You'd have to look from third grade, then you look at fourth grade, then you look at fifth grade, right?
right, but I was looking at actual progress by grade level, and we didn't make any in some grades,
In some grades.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in a lot of grades.
which is what happened from everything that we've been going to, Ms. Salinas, together, where they have told us that even half of the fourth graders in writing did not pass it in the state of Texas. It's a completely redesigned test.
Right. Just, you know,
And in looking at districts that are like us, we see the same similarities, the same demographics of kids. We see those same similarities.
So likewise, on that taper report that you're reviewing, it does give us the 2022 to 2023. So sporadically throughout, we do see some increases. I think they're focusing on the elementaries. But, you know, they does give us some hope. And this, again, this is lagging data from the year before.
well, we had good progress at end of course US history. We went from an 80% to a 91%. Way to go, high school. We do have some gains, but what worries me is we've got a lot of losses. And, you know, and I'm sure, like Sissy said, it's, you know, it's happening. But
Well, we recognize that we're not where we want to be, but we definitely are headed in that direction. And so there's a lot of additional variables to consider, you know, in the data, which is what the taper report is all about.
So we're having benchmarks, are they testing right now? Or
They
did
almost
anybody test last
complete-
week?
Yes, sir. We tested last week. We were doing biology yesterday and retesters. And at the next board meeting, we'll be presenting the benchmark results.
Okay, thank you.
The reading results look very promising, you know, and we did test on everything that they're gonna be tested on at the real test. So it was a very rigorous test, but we were proud to see some of those gains. And there's gonna be gains and losses. I mean, it is the nature of the beast, unfortunately. And as long as we know what the losses are, then we have to target them. We have to analyze what do they need interventions on and continue the work, even though it is a more rigorous test or a redesigned test.
Are there any additional questions from any of the board members?
Dr. Messina, just real quickly, just to, if you could just sum up some of the things that you saw that are really good in this report, some of the things that are positive, and some of the challenges that we're gonna face.
Well, as Ms. Salinas already mentioned, the secondary, the history, definitely were some gains. Throughout the taper report, we saw some gains in some subject areas by grade level. And so we're continuing to look at apples to apples of the students that are growing. And I know Ms. Salinas is measuring, this is a taper report, goes from year to year. And that is true, that's what it does. But it also does show us some of the significant small gains that students are making, because it does measure students in groups, in cohorts. So we are looking, and I have my academic team here, they oversee the reading and the math. Is there anything specific that you want to highlight? This is the time.
One thing, if you look deeper, is if it was a 67 in third grade last year and a 65 this year, or this past year, on a test that now 100% of them took online, and they now include the extended constructed responses. That's pretty good, you know, that they took a harder test. Is there still work to do?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Every year there's gonna be work to do. But that's what we try to look at. We look at each kid individually, and then we have pulled up, according to Lead Forward, the training we've been to, where it drills down to the students who are hoppers and who are droppers. The hoppers are the ones that are showing that they're continuing to grow, and the droppers are the ones that are not. And so each principal was given that color-coded list of kids, meeting with their teachers to find out, okay, what is the next step? What is it that stumped them? Was it the question, the way it was questioned? Or was it that the student is still lacking those basic skills? So all those things are being looked at every single time, you know, that we meet with them. But yesterday was a principal meetings that y'all had, right? Where y'all analyzed each one of those. And they're expected to go back to their PLCs.
So Mr. Chumba, back to your question, biology, eighth grade biology, for example, as well, increased based on this data. And so we have seen in your course exams, looking at isolated subject areas by group, some of them, yes, have been improving, but we do know that our work also begins at the elementary. And then Dr. Bettis has tasked us to really look at the entire report, not just the academic, because there are some things that glean that we definitely want to call attention to, like graduation types, how many of our students are graduating on different types of graduation programs, and how can we increase for students to be college and career ready. And we see that we are making an increase there on taper report on page 22 on the college ready annual graduates, and you see an increase in those numbers. So, you know, we're not going to see just increase in every area, but we are seeing it sporadically throughout this report.
The dropout rate, I know that Mr. Gonzalez has been reporting on that at every ADA meeting. So even though that's a lagging indicator, still, you know, we want to keep that in the forefront as well. How are we doing with that?
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
All right, this is a public hearing. Are there any comments from the public? If not, I will declare this public hearing adjourned at 5:27, and we will reconvene the board meeting at 5:30. It's 5:30 PM on Tuesday, March the 5th, 2024. I call this special meeting of the Kingsville Independent School District to order. We'll have roll call. Joe Morales. Here. Martine Chapa. Here. David Garcia. Joseph Ruiz. Here. James Glusing. Here. Delma Salinas.
Here.
Brian Kufal is here. Let the record show there is a quorum of board members present. That this meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551 of the State of Texas Open Meetings Act. We move now to the moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, this meeting is being live video streamed. We're going to move now to item number 4, which is the adoption of the agenda. Before I entertain a motion to adopt, I'd like to note that item 7D, the discussion of possible action regarding the TASB Superintendent of the Year Award, is being removed from the agenda at this time. Dr. Pettis has indicated that she's not interested in being nominated for the Superintendent of the Year, so we don't need to address that this evening. With that removal, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion made by Ms. Salinas.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ruiz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Item number 5, public participation. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the board?
No, sir.
We move now to item number 6, communication from administration. Item 6A is the 2024-2025 KISD budget calendar. This can be found on page 3 and 4 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, President Kufal, Dr. Pettis, members of the board. I'm going to just point out some of the highlights there. You see where we are right now. We're reviewing the budget calendar on the 5th. We're going to have our first budget workshop next month on the 2nd of April. During that, we will review stipends. We're going to talk about health insurance and large expenditures. We get our property values on the 1st of May. We're expected to. And then as soon as students go, we start working on the budget with all the departments and principals. However, in the interluding time between now and then, myself and Dr. Pettis and other members of the leadership team are working on calculating revenues to see how much money we project that we're going to have. And then once we project our revenues, then we can begin working with all the different departments on what their allotment is and how they're going to spend their allotments. You look at on June the 4th, that by then we will have the TASB pay study. We know that compensation is the largest part of our budget. So right now we're actually working this week, Ms. Galindo and I are working this week with TASB on getting them all the data for the TASB study. They review every single position and compare our salaries with all the salaries of the surrounding districts that have similar demographics. The cost of that study is always $4,000 a year, very well worth the cost to make sure that we are competitive with the salaries in the surrounding area for each position. Then you look at the 18th, we're planning to approve later on, 2 weeks later after we have that board presentation on the compensation plan. We're planning to approve compensation and stipends at the June board meeting. Then on the 16th, that's where we'll have a budget update, and we have to set a date for the proposed public meeting for the tax rate and the budget. And as you see later on down there, that meeting is the 27th. We have a tight timeline in May. You see that right away we get the certified property value, tight timeline in August. In August the 1st, we're supposed to get the certified property values. That hasn't come to fruition in the past. So you see that pushes us right up then with the deadline for TEA for the maximum compress rate. And I need the data from the county to submit to TEA. And then right away, we turn into our workshop on the calendar and the tax rate. Because then I have to notify the paper about a week ahead of time so they can post it on the 16th. That needs to be done at least 10 days before you have your public hearing. So as you can see, our public hearing is on the 27th. So the 16th is really pushing the deadline. It's 11 days before that. And then we post it on the website the very next day. So it's a very tight timeline. And not all of it is under our control, unfortunately. A lot of times we are waiting for both the county appraisal district and we are waiting for TEA as well. I'll take any questions.
When you talked about KISD, and I'm looking at a pay study, are we looking at just salaries and nothing else? As far as salaries, I mean, as far as not staffing, not 14-to-1, none of that stuff.
Right,
We're looking
just
at
salaries.
Okay,
Comparing it to comparable salaries in our area.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know my problem. I am not comfortable having a public hearing and approving the budget necessarily on the same day. Historically, it's been fine, but I think it sends a bad message to the public to say, we're gonna have a public hearing, we want your input, but we're gonna take a vote within the hour. I understand the timeline, and I understand that we as a board don't wanna meet any more than we have to. I just feel like I need to express those.
So here's a possible solution and some other mitigating factors. Theoretically, we could, the day before, have a public hearing on the 26th. But if you're going to then make changes, then you're supposed to post it again in the paper for 10 more days. And there's really no solution for that. And because of that, almost every other district does the same thing that we do. Not saying that that's right.
I understand, and typically, there's not going to be, I mean, there never has historically been a public outcry. I just don't like the optics of it. I'm not saying change it. I'm just saying that somewhere down the road, governmental wise, and it's not anything we can do because it's beyond our control. But this is just another example of how our hands are tied by, you know, sometimes state deadlines and lack of state information. And I think to some extent, it's just another thumb in the nose at the public to say, we really don't care what you think. But we don't have a choice. I mean, unless we wanted to set a separate meeting the day before, but as Dr. Pitts said, that really doesn't solve anything because if a change were made to the tax rate. And so I guess the only solution that I have is there are throngs of people in the public watching this on live stream. Please make your concerns known throughout the process early on. All board meetings are public meetings. All workshops can be public meetings. You know how to get in touch with all of the boards of directors, the trustees here. So please make your concerns known early and we will address them because we do care about the public input and the public comments.
Thank you for putting that into context, because we wish we had more choices as well.
All right, anything else on the calendar? All right, if not, thank you, Dr. Pitts. We will move now to item number 7, which is new business.
Discussion and possible action regarding the amended order for general school trustee election for May 4th, 2024. This can be found on page 5 to 10 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Kufal. There's a few revisions on there, most of them cosmetic. If you look at, the Secretary of State has this, I guess, very boxed off form where there is very hard to make changes on it. We use the recommended form by Secretary of State. But if you look at the beginning, our election is May the 4th, 2024, and originally we put 5/4/2024, and then on the second line also 5/4/2024. However, in Spanish, the day of the month comes before the actual month. So for added clarity, instead of putting 5/4/2024, I put May 04/2024 and 04 Mayo 2024 to, I guess, add more clarity to the public. This isn't actually what's printed, but we made a change there. We also, in the middle of the page, on top of the address for the early voting location, we added the name, just like the city did when they passed their order. We put Claiborne County Early Voting Annex, and then at the very, move to the next page, please. Then, right there at the bottom, that was a typo at the very bottom. It said 5/23 April 2024. We did put in April 23, 2024, and you see that we switched it around the way it's supposed to be in Spanish. Then at the very bottom, there is a place for the board president to sign and a place for every board member to sign in any place there. But it's the same election order, again, just with some added clarification and that correction on that last date. If you can move to the next document. This has all the, not that one. Well, we're having some technical difficulties bringing it up, but if you look at the second document, document B, that has all the polling places. And then if you look at document C, that is a notice that will be posted in the paper. The notice needs to be posted at least 10 days before, but no earlier than 30 days prior to the election. That has pretty much the same information, but it also has all of the polling places by precinct. And again, that's the one that'll be posted on the front of our door, and it'll be posted online, and it'll be posted in the newspaper. I'll take any questions you might have.
All right, if there's no questions, is this an action item?
It is for the amended order, yes, sir.
Do we have a motion to adopt the amended order for the general school trustee election?
I do have one real quick question.
Yes, sir.
On all the signatures that we have to sign,
Yes, sir.
why is there 10 places for,
This is the form used by Secretary of State, not just for school districts, but for other organizations as well. You're welcome.
I make the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Chapa, seconded by Ms. Salinas. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Item 7B, discussion and possible action regarding purchases over $50,000. This can be found on page 11 and 12 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Kufal. We have been awarded 2 safety grants so far. The first one was for $203,000, and that grant must be used first. We are about a little bit over half of the way spending those funds. And then we have another grant for approximately $888,000 as well that was awarded to us. they have different requirements and allowable expenditures. Really, you can only use it for silent panic alert technology. You can use it for fencing. You can also use it for reinforcing your exterior glass windows with bullet-resistant film. And then also amplifiers to amplify the signals of two-way radios inside of big buildings. And we're planning to use those funds for all of those purposes. We are expanding the height of the fence over at HMK. We are building a fence around Gillette. Mr. Segovia, if you could show the silent panic alert that we are purchasing for every.
You need to slide it up, and there is a activate. If you press it, we have an option to go into a secure, a hold, or lockdown, and there'll be certain people on the campus that will receive that, and then we'll take action depending on the event itself. This is just a demo. There is a kind of like a charger here, so every person that receives one of these, which we ordered 600. So all the subs, everybody in the district will have one. They can charge it, but it does last up to 2 months. And you can put it around your neck, or you can put it wherever. So and you can't just press it like that. You have to slide it up and then activate.
So one slight correction, we have not ordered them yet. We are waiting your approval tonight.
That's a demo.
That's a demo. So all of these funds, they are earmarked for safety. We cannot use them for anything else other than safety. So if we don't use, it's not the general fund. If we don't use these are going to be lost. So the two that we're bringing to you tonight are the National Glazing Solutions. We have already brought them to you before because we did the front doors of the building that were not inside the fence. Now we are going to do the back doors of each building that are enclosed by fences, because that'll make it more safe, and we have the funds to do it that are given to us. So that's the first one, National Glazing Solutions. That's the first project, which was I believe 63,000 plus. It's almost 90,000, 85,000 for the additional projects. So that is the total amount of both projects. And then Alertus is the silent panic alert system. It's not only the brain, but it is also 600 of those devices. Plus it is the licenses to run the software as well. We'll take any other questions that you have.
Well, this is all due to safety, correct?
Yes.
All right. I live on South Grand Boulevard,
Yes, sir.
and I was driving up last week, and an ambulance going south was caught in traffic because of our students crossing Grand Boulevard. Is there any way, I don't know if there's any funds left over, but I'm just bringing up, that's something we might want to address. Because apparently the ambulance is going south, so that it means it was going to pick up somebody that was in trouble or was going to the hospital, but it was blocked in, it couldn't go around, it couldn't get out of traffic. And we used to have administration help the kids across the street right there at the crosswalk, which was fantastic. But we just sat there and watched it for a while.
I'm gonna chime in here. These are high school students. These aren't second and third graders. I think one sharp lecture could solve this problem. I don't think that administrators should have to be out there escorting almost grown kids across the street because they don't want to park in the back parking lot. That's just my thought.
I'm willing to accept that, but I'm just saying, we need to find, if we need to have a lecture, we need to have a lecture. But it needs to be something like that.
And I know our administrators do that. Parents, we need them to talk to their children. We have plenty of parking in the back parking lot. They're choosing to park at the mall.
Well, it's also parents pulling up to the mall, waiting for their kids to get us.
Well,
I mean, I understand
again,
it's a global thing.
They can write in if they
Yeah,
choose to
parents,
do that, yeah.
I know when I went to high school there, my mother drove up,
Yeah.
did that U-turn, came back out. That's what we need our parents doing as much as possible. can announce it on the robocall, remind them, but it is their choice to park right there at the mall.
All right, any other discussion regarding the over $50,000 purchases? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Salinas,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Glusing. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. We move down to item number 7C, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed name for facility nomination, Rondo Corey Garza Ag Farm. This can be found on page 13 to 16 of our packets, and I will lead this discussion. On Friday, February the 16th, at approximately 10:50 a.m. in the morning, a petition was presented to the administration office proposing that the HMK FFA Ag Farm be formally named the Rondo Corey Garza Ag Farm. The petition contained 319 signatures. On Friday, February the 23rd, a week later, I was delivered electronically a Claiborne County voter registration listing of 18,283 voter names. I personally reconciled the petition signers with the voter registration list, comparing names and addresses. The result of my reconciliation is that of the 319 signatures, 3 entries were completely undecipherable by me, and so they were not counted. 32 entries were found on the voter list, were never found on the voter list, and so they were not counted. 12 entries were on the list, but were determined to live outside the KISD voting boundaries. So there were 272 valid entries of KISD jurisdiction residents that had signed this petition. The naming of facilities is covered by our policy CW local, and it states that, number one, we've got complete authority to name any facility or property or portion therein, and establishes some guidelines. The petition process is part of this guideline, and I will say that the petition was properly executed. It was notarized. It was submitted. Part of what needs to happen with this is that the family of the nominee were contacted to obtain their permission, and that was done. There was biographical data submitted with this for the reason for why they believe this facility should be named after Corey. I won't go through all of that because I believe everyone here is familiar with his contributions to this district and his contributions to the city and his love for the ag farm. The petition was presented by Dawn Morales, and the original is in Sylvia's office, but there are copies available for anybody who wants to review the reconciliation showing their voter ID and the validity of them being within the jurisdiction. As a result of all of this, again, the guidelines in CW, I will point out to the board, there are guidelines. One of the things it says the facility should be named for distinguished educators or board members who have served the district in an exceptional manner for 10 or more years. And while Corey did not serve for 10 years, these are guidelines. We can make exceptions, and I believe exceptions have been made in the past with some of the other namings that we have. In order to get this moving, and in order of appreciation for Ms. Morales and this petition, and frankly in honor of my good friend, I move that the HMK FFA Ag Farm be formally named the Rondo Corey Garza Ag Farm. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Kufal, seconded by Mr. Morales. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Garza, would you come to the front?
I'd like the whole board to come down. Come up here, would you like to get a picture?
Too short.
More back row center. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, board, as we noted, item 7D has been removed from the agenda. So we move now to item number 8. The board will enter into closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074, to deliberate and consider the following. A, consider and deliberate regarding the 1-year renewal of probationary term, dual, and non-certified professional contracts of teachers for the 2024-2025 school year. B, consider and deliberate the 1-year renewal of term professional and non-certified professional contracts for positions of principals, directors, coordinators, assistant superintendents, CFO, executive director, and LSSP for the 2024-2025 school year. C, consultation with legal counsel regarding pending legal and personnel matters. No action will be taken until we return to open session. We are entering closed session at 5:58 p.m. All right, we now return to open session and take necessary actions on matter which the board may discuss in open session, and upon which actions may be taken. We're returning to open session at 6:19 PM. Item A, discussion and possible action regarding the one-year renewal of probationary term, dual, and non-certified professional contracts of teachers for the 2024-2025 school year. Dr. Pettis.
Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the one-year renewal of probationary term, dual, and non-certified professional contracts of teachers for the 2024-2025 school year for the personnel listed.
All right, you've heard the recommendation, and we're presented the listing in the back. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Ruiz,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Salinas. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Item B, discussion and possible action regarding the one-year renewal of term, professional, and non-certified professional contracts for positions of principals, directors, coordinators, assistant superintendents, CFO, executive directors, and LSSP for the 2024-2025 school year. Dr. Pettis.
Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the one-year renewal of the term professional and non-certified professional contracts for positions of principals, directors, coordinators, assistant superintendents, CFO, executive directors, and LSSP for the 2024-2025 school year for the personnel listed.
You've heard the recommendation from administration, and you saw the listing of employees in the back. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Glusing,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Salinas. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. There being no further action, I declare this special meeting adjourned at approximately 6:20 PM.